We are now starting the July 2020 Earth sign forecast or Tarotscopes for the month of July in 2020. I'm going to start with Taurus and then we will do Virgo and then Capricorn. Thank you guys for being patient and going last. I start with whatever birth month it was, so it was for Cancer, and then I work my way through. The next sign after Cancer is Leo, hence first with water, then fire. You get the drift. All right, for those of you that are watching, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Please share out the video. Share it with your Taurian friends. All those sexy, stubborn, slovenly, pizza-eating, hot motherfuckers that they are. Let them know that this is their month in July. For those of you that have a Taurus, as your sun sign, or a moon or Taurus rising, or heavily placed planets in Taurus, you would want to pay attention to this. Cadis, you better be paying attention to this, because I know that you have your sun, moon, and rising is all in Taurus. No wonder why you're so stubborn. So, I actually love Taurians, so it's okay. Y'all know how to get down with the get down. So I changed the forecast a little bit. I've said this on all the videos. I'll tell you guys too. I've added a couple of extra cards because, let's face it, 2020 has been just like a bonkers year. And so what I've added is the first card is going to be an animal spirit card. And the purpose of this card is to just give us insight into like an animal spirit or guardian that is there to remind us of latent tendencies within us or teach us about new abilities that we can access in the month of July that will help to make us sort of travel through the month of July a little bit easier, okay? Certainly we could use it, because God knows, if we get another round of murder hornets, we're going to need an animal spirit to guard us. So, that's the purpose of this card, and then I'll end the reading with a Divine Doors card, which just shows us what my Taurians might be opening or closing during the month of July. What you guys might want to be paying attention to. The one thing I have noticed, I'm getting down to the final three signs, the final three Earth signs. I have not seen a lot of, well, I don't even know if Taurus cares about this, but I have not seen a lot of, my water signs kicking off with water cards. It's been everybody sort of doing like, at best it seems like their complementary card. It seems like all of the signs, now that I think about it, thus far, have been working in elements that are either opposing them. Does that make sense? Which would also make sense to sort of the energy that's happening on the planet. But anyways, let's see what's going on for Taurus. So what does Taurus need to know? What animal is aiding Taurus, sun, moon, and rising this month? Oh wow, alright, so we had this already. But I'm gonna give it to you guys, Taurus. So you guys have bee spirit, and bee is the element of air. See, this is what I mean. It's like all of the signs have these animals or these, and their center cards, and we'll see what your center card is. Let me start shuffling now. That has been sort of not your complement. Like, since you're an earth sign, your complement would be like a water animal, right? Or another earth animal. That would be ideal. But you guys have got an air animal. And Taurus, Taurus is the bull. That's like the heaviest fucking animal to get up in the air anyways. Like, it's like the antithesis of what you guys represent. So, I think that this is good, because what I feel like B is teaching my Taurian, less stubborn, how to be part of the hive mind, how to get along, how to sort of help others, how to sort of work collectively for the greater good is part of what I'm getting from this bee. How to keep things sort of light through the month of July, not allowing yourselves to get too upset, pushed down, angry, that sort of a thing. I'm not saying that Taurians are naturally angry, but if there's things that are frustrating you, bee spirit to me feels like just take it with a grain of salt. Like, take it and sort of just keep moving on. Bees are also, I said this in, I feel like it was Leo that had the bee spirit. Bees to me also are a very integral yet small component to the grand scheme of the natural world, right? They pollinate the flowers, they help us to produce food. If bees were completely taken out, a lot of our food supply would suffer, our natural food supply. And so the bees are often taken for granted. And yet they still continue to work. And that actually, now that I think about it, that kind of is very much in line with sort of Taurian spirit. You guys can be sort of steady, steadfast, stubborn. Yeah, and I don't mean stubborn in a bad way. I mean like when you get your sort of idea, you work towards it in a very steady way. And bee is that same energy, but I feel like bee is less. Like it's more light in its approach. Does that make sense? And it's more collective in its approach. Where I feel like sometimes Taurian energy can be a little bit single-minded, a little bit my way or the highway. B is more like our way or the highway. You know, B coming from a hive and coming from a collective. So I think that's sort of the lesson that B is going to bring to Taurus this month is that you are a very integral part of the grand scheme of things, but you have to cooperate or allow in the ability to work with others more so than you normally would. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, because that's kind of what I'm feeling from this. I also think that whatever you are doing this month is significant, even if it doesn't feel significant to you. You know, bee being an insect, sometimes, you know, we take, like I said, we take bee for granted. Don't take for granted what it is you do. Even the small stuff for you, as long as you're doing it from a place of, for the betterment of everyone, actually creating quite a bit of magic. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Alright, so let's see what's in your cards. So, this first card is your center. It tells me where you're centered at this month, what you'll be sort of vibrating at for the majority of the month, you know, in and out of this card. It also gives me a little insight into what you might possibly be creating for the future. So, let's see what this card is. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Again, though, this is the same situation. We have a fire sign card or fire element card in the middle of an earth sign reading. I'll say this. This center blends nicely with the bee's energy of air. Air feeds fire. So there is a symbiotic relationship here, but neither of these two elements are connected into Taurus. So this is where I feel like all of my signs this month in July are actually practicing things that might be outside of our comfort zone, and that's okay, right? I mean, if you take a bull and then you take a bee, they're two totally polar opposite kind of animals. One's huge and lumbering, one's small and light, but they both have their own sting. They both can protect themselves. They both, you do see what I'm saying? So it is this idea of sort of learning a different aspect of yourself or a different attribute of another element. Does that make sense? So I feel like Taurus is working on this next layer of the onion. You know, what's that onion at fucking Chili's? You all would know it. I know y'all like to eat. The awesome blossom. You all are discovering the next layer of your awesome blossom, Taurus. I hope this is broadcasting. I don't see if anybody's actually commenting, so I don't know if I'm losing connection. Anyways, the Five of Wands to me is always about a choice that's being made. To me, Wands is the element of fire and the spirit, and I love that we have these little angels kind of harnessing these wands together with this flower that's growing. To me, this is about spiritual growth, or a focus on choosing spiritual growth, choosing what ignites our spirit right now at this time, choosing to like sort of go down that path and create that for ourselves. It's not like the easiest of how do I want to say this? It's not like, to me, I get like the sense that these angels might be kind of trying to harness this path and make it happen. So my Taurians might feel a little bit of resistance from the outside environment here and there as they're trying to move forward towards what like turns them on spiritually or excites them at a deeper level. But the focal point here is finding meaning, I feel like, growth, spiritual connection, that like that sort of a emphasis throughout the month of July. All right. So that is kind of how I where I feel like you guys are going to be centered. And I also feel like when I'm looking at this card, like we don't really know what the outcome is sort of the feeling that I'm getting right out of the gate. We'll look at the rest of the cards and see if that's indeed true. But to me, it feels like there might be an unknown factor as we're building this path, or trying to follow, like I feel like my Taurians like to be planned out. My Taurians like to have a plan, stick to it, and execute it. This Five of Wands doesn't necessarily feel like that plan is really executable in a sense, or fully visible. But it feels like the desire is strong enough that we have to make the choice to pursue it, or we will make the choice throughout the month to continue on with it here and there, maybe revisiting it, setting it aside, then going back, revisiting it some more, setting it aside, revisiting it some more, and there's work involved in this, okay? The next card is the Foundation card. This tells me a bit about sort of what was going on in the past and where things are at, what has led us up to this point with this, to where we're at now, right? So this also is what everything is built upon and what holds everything in place. So this is the Ace of Chalices. Now this is the complementary card to your guys' sign of Earth. Cups representing the element of water. I feel like somewhere in the past, probably recent past, Taurus has come to some sense of emotional peace, some sort of inspiration, some sort of spiritual connection too, with this beautiful angel sitting in this card. To me, I feel like Taurus has had the opportunity to connect with themselves and create some semblance of peace for themselves, even amidst the chaos, and emotionally have been sort of been able to connect to themselves emotionally in a way that has inspired them and strengthened them. And in doing that, I think that is what set off this opportunity or this desire to create more of that through this Five of Wands card, right? Where Taurus wants more of that connection to spirit, more of that connection to the emotions, more of that connection to peace. And so in doing that, you're going to have to sort of work towards that, not necessarily knowing fully how to go about getting that, but being willing in the moment as it comes to do whatever it takes to make that happen. That's also this bee energy, right? This bee energy of this sort of constant working, constant tending to whatever needs to get done so that there's sort of survival for the greater whole. Does that make sense? So let's see what the higher self wants. The higher self card, or this is your spirit card, this is what it wants you to focus on during this time. This is the Ace of Pentacles. Wow, Taurus, you guys have double aces on either side of you. That's brilliant. This is your home element. This in your higher self realm, to me, speaks to this idea, especially with this Ace of Cups as the foundation, or what is sort of pushing everything forward. It says that your emotional gauge and what's going on within your spirit in that Five of Wands really is a strong guide towards getting you into this Ace of Pentacles energy, or into this ability to create, to be inspired to create. You guys being of the element of Earth, Pentacles is your home suit. You guys are able to create and do that very well when you set your mind to it. This is about creating something that's more spiritual in nature, or more emotional in nature for you, that matters a little bit more than, say, money or finance, jobs, things like that. This is about self-worth, about spiritual connection, about the deepening of one's awareness of self. And I think that you guys are set up in a way that, even though it may look what's the word? It may look unclear as to how to get there. You are, with both of these aces on either side of you, you guys are really set up for success to accomplish some major inspiration for yourself, and quite possibly others too, especially with this bee energy here, because the bee kind of signifies being part of the greater whole, right? So the other two cards on either side of you are what I call the outside influences. These represent as people, sometimes events or energies, sometimes beliefs that are either affecting us positively or negatively in the month of July, and we should be made aware of them. So one is the Five of Swords. So to me, the Five of Swords is kind of like this weird conflict card. Um, there might be mental conflicts going on, and it's interesting because it's sitting next to your Five of Wands, which it's like uh, Taurus is making a choice to sort of pursue sort of more spiritual well-being or what it desires spiritually. And this Five of Swords to me feels like people might challenge that, or the environment might mentally challenge that. Like it feels to me like that energy of, oh, well, is that really practical, Taurus? Is that really what you need to be doing right now? And to me, it is, because we have this Ace of Cups at the bottom and this Ace of Pentacles at the in the soul space. So it says to me that like you guys are being guided to a certain degree by an internal desire that is stronger than the bullshit that's going on around you. Okay, this is like fights, bickering, challenging thoughts, people in fear. Don't listen to them is kind of the feeling that I want to say. I want to say that this is people that maybe aren't where you're at right now. They're not necessarily, they're thinking about themselves and maybe proving themselves right versus thinking about, I mean, you're thinking about yourself too, but you're thinking about yourself in this more deeper spiritual, emotional way, and this creative way that provides inspiration and wealth and abundance emotionally and even materially up here in this pentacle, right? But also with this B energy, I feel like whatever you do to better yourself also betters the community. It also helps all of those around you. You know, there's a generous nature to Taurus too that can be um, quite giving. And so, if you're giving to yourself, when you upgrade or boost your own vibration, your own energy, your own pursuit of things that turn you on spiritually, you you kind of exude that out into the world. And so people are going to maybe challenge that with you mentally. You might have to make a choice to not allow for that shit in, if that makes sense. To me, there's a little bit of a back and forth. There could be an argument or two in the month of July with you guys, with people that might be important to you or their opinions might be important. But it's going to be a choice of whether or not you choose what you desire in your heart versus what they think is right for you. That's kind of the feeling I get from that Five of Swords. Now, the